All right, I'm here with Jeremy Biron, founder of Forecastly. Jeremy, how's it going?
Great. Excellent. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So Forecastly. I mean, you and I actually, I think you and I go back for a couple of years now. We went to the Big Snow Tiny Conf trip a couple times together, doing some snowboarding, skiing out there in Vermont. So that was really fun, and to kind of connect with you and talk business and hit the slopes. But now we're going to talk about your business and talk about how you've built it up and marketing and everything. So, before we go back into the story, tell us what is Forecastly.
Sure. So Forecastly is a B2B SaaS app. What we do is we optimize inventory for Amazon sellers. So if you're an e-commerce company that sells on Amazon, I think a lot of us that are listening are probably Prime members. If a product goes out of stock, someone's just going to buy something else. So if I sell phone cases, they're just going to get a different phone case. So our job is to essentially ensure that Amazon sellers don't run out of stock, or that they don't have too much stock, because that just ties up cash.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And so how many years has Forecastly been around?
I started the company. This is a funny question. I should know the exact answer to this, but I started the company about 2 years ago. I was just solving a pain point that I had in my other business, which is an e-commerce company. Mm-hmm. And we were using another software, and then we tried doing it ourselves, and we ended up building some in-house software because I was losing a lot of money running out of stock. It's a pretty simple concept, but it's not an easy problem to solve because there's so many different variables that get factored in.
Yeah.
And
I knew you had an e-commerce background. Are you still running separate e-commerce businesses today?
I have another company that handles that, just because I don't want to be involved personally. It's really just to test Forecastly, essentially. That's the only reason that we have that other company, is because we need a test account. So that's what we have.
Right.
It's called Honest Office. That's what that's around for. But I have another company that handles that so that there isn't any conflict of interest.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, cool. I mean, I know like Amazon seems to be like, I keep hearing all this stuff about like, it's like the golden age of Amazon, even though it's been around for a while. It just seems like everything in the e-commerce space is moving there, or at least making Amazon part of the strategy.
It's a pretty incredible thing. I mean, they are all about strategy. I mean, this has been a setup for a long, long time coming. I mean, it wasn't. Jeff knew in his mind, like, it's not just going to be a bookstore. It's going to be a global mall where you can get anything. And they're definitely headed more in that direction, buying the jets, buying a couple cargo ships they picked up in the last year or two.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're making the world flat, which is pretty cool.
Totally. So let's go back. I mean, what were you doing before in the years before Forecastly?
Well, my background was sales. So when I worked in the corporate, when I had a real job, or the corporate world, when I had a real job, I was in sales. I did pharmaceutical sales and then medical device sales for a while, and I really liked it. But then I got into selling office supplies online, and my parents owned an office supply company. Started buying stuff from them at cost, selling it on eBay, and then I discovered this thing called Amazon. This is a long time ago. This is
you started on eBay. Wow.
Yeah. I started on eBay because it was more popular at the time, and then Amazon was really just selling books. Then I found out that you can sell office supplies on Amazon, which people just thought, oh, if I'm going to buy books, then I'll buy office supplies too. But now it wasn't what it is today, where you can buy anything you want. Mm-hmm. Amazon wasn't. And then I quit my real job. This was probably about 8 years ago. Quit my real job, went full-time working for Honest Office, grew that to about somewhere like about 3.5 million in gross revenue. Wow. And then started having cash flow issues because of the growth. And a lot of that cash flow, I realized once I dug into the weeds, was tied directly to inventory. Mm-hmm. So the inventory platform I was using at the time almost put us out of business. And that's when I realized, all right, this is supposedly the best inventory tool out there for Amazon sellers, and it almost put me out of business. Wow. That's a problem.
Because why? Because it just didn't give you the predictive analysis of like.
You're exactly correct. It all starts with demand forecasting. So if you don't know exactly what you're going to sell in the future, you don't know how many units of something you need. Like, so I don't know if I need 100 phone cases or 1,000. And that's really the core of where our software shines. It's what we're best at, is demand forecasting. Awesome. Without getting too technical.
Yeah. So what led you to? So I mean, obviously you had that pain point in your business, but when did it go from, okay, this is kind of frustrating, maybe we'll solve it for ourselves, into, hey, let's start a SaaS product for other people to use?
Sure. About, we'll call it 3 years ago, I got sick of selling office supplies. It's a commodity, right? I can go here in the US, I can go to Staples, I can go on Amazon, I can go anywhere I want to get the exact same product. And there is limited profit in that. It's just the race. I like to call it the race to zero, or other people have called it that as well. And it's the race to zero profitability. So in the long run, I knew that wasn't going to work. And I started to go to these Amazon conferences and talk to more and more sellers that were out there about, they were having the exact same problem. Jeremy, you're doing pretty good on Amazon. Your company is. How are you staying in stock? And we had built some in-house software at this point. It was definitely not a SaaS app.
Right. It worked for you guys. It's not for the public.
Exactly. Yeah, I learned pretty quickly. And I knew building a SaaS app is very different than building an internal application. It's like, I can build a shed. Now I can build a high-rise condo complex. Two totally different things.
Right.
So I was a non-technical founder. I know how to code a little bit, but only to the point where I'll get in trouble with the development team.
Yep.
So I had some full-time developers at Honest Office, and I brought them over and put them on the Forecastly payroll, and then started to kind of wean down Honest Office slowly to the point where today it's just barely doing anything. And then and then I was full-time on Forecastly from that point forward.
Wow. So what were your very first steps? Obviously, you're going to have the developers. Did they like rebuild the app from the ground up, or was it just kind of like kind of touching
100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 100%. We didn't use a single line of code from the old app. And I knew that. I mean, I wanted it to be done right from the beginning. The in-house application was good because it was a learning point. I learned where things could go right and where things could go wrong, and different types of backups.
Yeah.
Cover your butt, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that.
Like a big focus that I've had across all these interviews in this series is knowing when and where to outsource and delegate certain things, and where to leverage your own expertise and background. So obviously you come from the e-commerce space, you know the pain point and the solution really, really well. I guess it was development, right? Was that first thing that you really handed off to someone to kind of take the lead on? Is that right?
You got it. And I knew right away, like, I can possibly learn how to develop or write code, but not to the point where I can develop a first-in-class solution. I mean, there's just no way.
And there's just that's just a poor use of your time. So like, where did you go to find your developer?
I had already had some developers. In-house. We brought those over first, and then I went and outsourced to a third party. Some folks recommended, all right, go on Upwork or go on freelancer.com. And if you're experienced with that, you can definitely find some good people that are out there. But I used a couple different firms that had their own developers, and then just worked on our project full time.
Right.
So that they weren't working on multiple projects at once. Otherwise, you get distracted. Like, I want somebody that's dedicated, that knows what they're doing, and also has been vetted right from the start. Because if I'm not a developer, like, I wouldn't. Right. You can easily trick me.
Yeah, like you don't know the right questions to ask. Right. Yeah. Cool.
And it was good to have some folks to lean on as well, just in my network, to say, what do I need to look out for? And they told me right away, all right, make sure they're running unit tests. Make sure that they're writing some comments in their code so it can be followed by the other people in the development team. Yeah. And then put them. I actually did some basic code testing or development testing as well. So in our case, we're written in Python, and how well can they write Python code? So I put them through some tests just to kind of vet them from the start.
Got it. So, so how did you get your very first customers, aside from you being the first customer?
Yeah, networking. So that was one of my things. That I started to keep track of all the people that I would talk to at these conferences that had our problem. And then I just started reaching out to them saying, hey, we have a solution.
So you would go to, like, what are these, like e-commerce?
E-commerce shows or Amazon. There are actually quite a few Amazon conferences. Each one's a little bit different. They have a kind of a different target market, but I focused on the folks that were in our target market, which is buying products from a wholesaler and then reselling them on Amazon.
Got it.
Those were our first customers. I put him on the tool and said, all right, we'll just put you on it for a couple months, try it out, let us work out all the bugs. I want to say we had about a dozen people on there,
I,
basically just running for free and then working out the bugs. And within a month, we switched them over to paid.
I don't want to gloss over the trade show thing. A lot of people say that, got the first customers from conferences, or we get a lot of customers from conferences, but like, how did that actually work? So like, you go to the conference. I mean, did you set up a booth, or did you just attend?
No, I was just an attendee.
Yeah.
So I would just kind of go to the networking events after or in the morning. Networking events are kind of funky, right? Like I'm talking about like the networking events afterwards. Like everyone's kind of just standing around with a beer or a drink in their hand. And once they get their group, then they stick to their group. What I really like is in the morning, if there are breakfasts. So if there's like a big group breakfast, go to that, or the lunchtime. Sit down at a table where you know nobody, or even maybe you know one person, but then your intent is to speak with other people at the table. That's where I like to meet people. And it can be a little unnerving at first. Like, I don't know any of these people at all, but everyone.
But you're all there with the same interest. You guys you're in the similar business. So it's
100%, Brian. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not like everyone has a whole team of a dozen people there and they're all sitting at the table together. They're out there to meet people as well.
So then how do you go from, casual conversation at breakfast or lunch to starting a trial for your software? Like, do you sign them up there? Do you just get their contact info, follow up with them later in the week? Like, how does that work?
I always follow up afterwards. It's kind of hard because there's only so much detail you can go into during a conversation at lunch or at breakfast.
Yep.
I love cold email. Number one, email them while you're at the conference, if at all possible. So try to have that set up in advance with an outreach. You can use maybe contactually. I think Mike Tabor's new program, Blue Tick, that's another great one. That one's perfect because you can get replies. It senses the reply, and then it won't email them again if they get the reply. Mm-hmm. That one is absolutely perfect because then you can say, hey, great to meet you today at so-and-so conference. Definitely want to connect in the future. And a lot of times I'll put in there a calendar link. So I use Calendly. Mm-hmm. Here's my Calendly link. Let's connect up for 30 minutes next week. Yeah. Definitely want to learn more about your business.
I need to get better at that. Like the last conference I went to, I remember like coming home, like flying home, and I had a list of like 10 new people that I met. And I remembered having really great conversations with them. And by the time I got home, like I forgot who was who, and and like I emailed like half of them, and I had like the email address wrong, and it was kind of a mess. That's
still one of the points that I need to work on is taking notes directly, like right after the conversation, because it's hard to remember. You can remember, all right, this is Brian, and he's with audience ops, but then I don't remember specifically what we spoke about, and that's the tough part.
Totally. All right, So you have some early users, you're working out the bugs. Where do you go from there? There's always a phase where you start with a personal network, and then companies start to scale out, and they're just getting traffic, and like strangers come into their website to sign up. Like, how did you start to get that process going?
Sure. A lot of Facebook ads. So I started with my Facebook ads. I did a lot of retargeting. So my background with Honest Office, I did quite a bit of marketing, digital marketing, not a ton. But as far as retargeting, that was kind of my specialty. So I did some display ads. I would retarget anybody that comes to our site. What I learned later was I was overly retargeting and hurting my score, but especially on Facebook. Learned my lesson. But I was driving cold Facebook ads, and this is also 2 years ago. It's a little easier to do than it is today, but it definitely still works today because we see it working. But that was really the core of what we were doing. We were doing retargeting ads and Facebook ads. And then I started to
were your Facebook ads going to like your homepage or to specific like lead magnets, or what were you pointing them to?
Just to our homepage. And you brought up a really good point. So I had a call with another partner company. So I drove a decent amount of traffic to our homepage, just straight to the homepage. And we were getting signups, and it was it was invite only, which we seem to get a higher level of invites. And then we were doing cold email outreach, or warm email outreach, I should say, after that to say, hey, your turn has come, you're up. And then emailing them, and that week after that, if they didn't reply, and then another week, and then we'd say, all right, we're giving your spot up to somebody else. And it worked pretty well, but I learned afterwards that I missed out on a lot of basically a lot of leads that came to our site and just left because we didn't have a lead magnet. I had a call with somebody that was running marketing for another, not somebody that doesn't compete with us, another software that focuses on our same target market. I had a call with him. He runs marketing for their site. And he was like, well, you don't have any lead magnet here. Right. You know how it is. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to focus on, all right, we don't want this to crash. And like, I have this webinar this week, and you have so many things to focus on.
Right.
It's like we're 6 months in, and I don't even have a lead magnet on my site. And that's when I looked at what we had, and it turned out I did some webinars, and I had some Excel templates that were just basic that, all right, we can use these. These will work. Let's build out some. I think it was like, oh, you know what it was at the time? Yeah, I used Sumo. Uh-huh. So I was using sumo.com. We put those up there, and that's when we learned, all right, we need some more. We need a better strategy here. Yeah. And I realized right away I can do digital marketing, but that's not my strength. And I think that's the point where I reached out to you.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, like running just cold Facebook ads to the homepage, there's always going to be a percentage of people who have the pain right now, ready to sign up now. And maybe 10%, like that would be like really great if 10% convert. But then there's that 90% who maybe they're mildly interested. They're kind of in your target market, but they don't have the need today. Give them a chance to get into your orbit, get into your email list somehow with something else other than buy my product or sign up for a trial.
Most definitely. And I look at all the metrics today, and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Right.
You have all this traffic that they've just learned. It's basically like going to the mall and then bringing the person right over to the cash register. Mm-hmm. Like, let them shop around first. Let them learn about your brand. I dropped the ball there, and they just learned about.
6 months is I talk to businesses who are like 3 years in, and they don't, they're doing the same thing. So it's
thanks for making me feel a little bit better about it, at least.
So yeah, like what happened next? Was that when you and I met up?
Yeah. So I had met you, and I had already started to do a little bit of blogging, and I knew I wanted to go down the content road. And when I say content, I'm mainly focusing on blog articles.
Mm-hmm. I forgot. Did you do any like blog content before we started?
Yeah, I did about a dozen articles, but what was happening was they were completely sporadic. Like we had no strategy. I had good ideas of what to write about, but then my weakness is not writing. Like I'm a math guy, I'm a numbers guy, a general business guy. I'm not a writer. And I know that, and I'm not afraid to admit it. That's one of my weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So I knew, all right, this isn't working what we're doing. It's better than nothing having content out there. But it needs to be more consistent. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even realize all the other stuff I was missing that goes along with just writing these blog articles. You can't just kind of put them out there and then expect people to just show up. Right. And that's what we were doing. And you and I had met, and I kind of asked you some questions. All right, what's this all about? How does it work?
I'm curious, like, because like you did experiment with some content beforehand. What was it that led you to say like, okay, content looks actually promising, that like I'm ready to kind of like double down on it or to really build a system around it and get it going rather than just stick with like Facebook ads?
Definitely. I'm a true believer in, I do this to help other businesses. 100%. The best part of my job is when I get to talk to other entrepreneurs all day. Mm-hmm. Those days are awesome. I'm exhausted at the end, but they are a lot of fun. So my whole thing is, all right, how can we better help those people? Like, I can't do live calls all day, every day. It's not going to work. How do we help them? So let's build some stuff on our site, write some articles, make some guides that will help them grow their business. And if we can help them grow their business, then it helps our brand. So it makes us look better, and then ultimately more people will use the software.
Yeah.
But if you help,
go on.
If you help other people, or at least this is my personal opinion for us, right? And my personal opinion is if we help other people, people are going to help us in return. Yep. And that's been our strategy from day one: is do the right thing. We write articles that have nothing to do with the level of selling that our target market is at, right? How to get started inside of Amazon. Mm-hmm. Somebody that reads that article they're not going to use our software, but it's still it's still helping the community.
Yeah.
And it puts the brand out there. People get excited about it, more brand recognition, and then they talk to other people about it. I mean, that's my view.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. The thing that really stuck out to me there was when you said just that you love talking to your customers, and I mean helping them, but like doing, like if I think about my last business with the Restaurant Engine, I honestly did not enjoy doing the sales calls with those customers, with restaurant owners, but in my current business, it's like I'm talking to these entrepreneurs anyway in these sales, and I'm kind of talking to friends most of the time. And same thing in our content and our webinars and blog articles and everything. So it just makes it more enjoyable to run a business like this when you're doing educational content in addition to the product itself. Definitely,
yeah. And you have to, if you don't genuinely enjoy talking to the end user or the customer, so whoever it is, I feel like, all right, you're in the wrong business. Like
Yep.
You have to have some passion about it. And I don't mean like I like mountain biking, I'm going to open a mountain bike company, that type of thing, but at
Right.
least have some respect and some appreciation for the folks on the other end of the call, and you'll learn stuff in return.
Totally. So okay. So moving forward, I mean, so you're starting to get new content pushed out, a more systematic process. How did you again kind of focusing on that outsourcing piece and delegating? You said like you're not a writer. We've worked together for a while now, but early on in like the very first month, onboarding, first 3 months, like how did you go about getting the writing team to really understand your target customer? Because like you said, it's not just like all about everything you ever need to know about Amazon. It's like specifically, businesses who are at a certain level and have a certain need. How did you get them to like really understand that persona?
Sure. So I think the key word there is persona, right? And I don't remember exactly. We've had personas from day one, customer personas, but they have developed over time. And where we're at right now we're actually just working on this morning is just to build out a really, really good persona of who your customer, like a actual document of who our target market is. Mm-hmm. Break it down to, all right, we break it down into 3 different segments. I won't go into those segments. There's no need to go into that level of detail, but we know our customer. Here are the 3 buckets they fit in. If they don't fall into these buckets, they're not a good fit for our software. And we basically just took those written documents, and now we work with all sorts of people, all sorts of folks that we outsource, different content, or not content writers, but folks that will write emails for us on our site, like onboarding emails. That's the project we were working on this morning. We already have the personas built out. Here's who it is. Here's who we're trying to target. Here's what they like. Here's the music they listen to. Sometimes it's hard to hit that one, but that's at least, that gives them a general idea as far as what's this person like.
Yeah.
And once you have those written down, it allows you just to do marketing in general, not just content writing, but everything in general.
Totally. From the messaging on the homepage to your ads, to your emails, to your articles, all of it. And those personas in that document can keep things consistent across all those different channels.
Definitely. Yeah. We struggle with that a little bit at the beginning within that first year. And then we slowly have developed those to the point right now that and I don't want to go into too much as far as like where we're focused on now, but our goals for this year are personalization, and we're working on those personas even further to what do they want to read on the site, specifically like a headline or a little pop-up. What should it say? How are we going to, what are the words we're going to use?
Yeah.
And then tying that also back into the content. So the blog articles, what key phrases do we need to use so that it resonates not with SEO, but resonates with the person that's reading it?
Right, like the language that they actually use.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. So you've kind of got like the blog content on, like that system is kind of like locked and loaded and running. You've got lead magnets up and running. You've had Facebook for a while. Like, now that we're, you're a couple of years into this, middle of 2017, like what are the places where you're looking to optimize? Is it those onboarding emails? Is it like A/B testing? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I always think that we can improve churn. Our churn is pretty good. We have a good product. At least I have a swayed opinion, but our churn is pretty low, so seems to be working with folks at solving a pain point. They're happy with it, but it's a very technical product. So we need to build out an onboarding experience all the way from pop-up messages to the videos that they see to the emails that they're receiving every day for the first 2 weeks of the trial or every other day, whatever it is, and in that the same messaging is being used throughout. Because what's happening now, or just before now, is that they're getting kind of sporadic things here and there. Here's a pop-up message from Intercom, and here's the email. And because it's not laid out in one full kind of cohesive document, which to us was like, it's fine, you know, they'll get it. They'll get the point of what we want them to do. And at the end of the day, it needs to look, I hate to use the same phrase, but cohesive from, you know, it's one message that's coming across to the user, no matter if it's being sent from Drip, which we use for email, or Intercom, which we use from pop-up messages, or it's the videos that we're using during the onboarding experience.
Yep. Yeah, I could see
and
that.
And then the other thing that we're focusing on this year is partners and personalization. Those are our two marketing pieces. So I'm not actually running the onboarding project. That's our customer success manager. But my focus is working with partners. And when I say partners, I mean other software tools that are out there. They don't have to necessarily be software. Companies that are in our industry that have a similar target market or the same target market, there's overlap there, and we don't compete. Well, if we don't compete, why don't we work together?
Yep.
And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. A key one is guest blog posts. We're working on some webinars. We've done a few already this year. Sharing a Facebook pixel, that's another one. Or it's not a pixel, it's the Facebook audience. So you can display ads to each other. And then the last piece is site personalization. So it's kind of, as we discussed earlier, we're going to get into the weeds of it. This is the
really
exact,
niche down the exact target, like how the customer identifies themselves as.
You got it. Yeah. Yep. And have they been to this page? And if they've been to this page, then they're probably this type of customer. We should change some of the headlines on the site. We should also show them different retargeting ads than they're seeing. So they're seeing one message all the way across, no matter where they are. So
are you using Brennan's right message for that? Or?
Yeah. We just started up with them. It's actually on my to-do list for this afternoon is to dig into it a little bit more and kind of figure out a plan. Because there are tools out there for all sorts of different things, but if you don't have a good plan, when I look back on it, that's some of my weak points in the past is like I didn't have a good plan of what needed to be done. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what tool I have. So we're going to I'm developing that plan, and then we're going to carry it out or execute it with right message. Awesome. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, that's so smart. Like personalization like that is something that I've been wanting to do for years. And I was going to do that product idea a couple of years ago, and then I never really did it. But what Brendan has done with right message is absolutely awesome. It's on my to-do list as well to get it up and running. Cool. So, like, what do you think, like, as we kind of start to wrap up here, like, over the last, it hasn't been that long. You've been at this, like, 2 years or so. I mean,
yeah, about 2 years.
Over the last year or so, like, what do you think has had just the biggest impact or kind of, like, just, like, caused the biggest, like, turning point?
Two different things. Partner relationships are number one. So, building those out. We've gotten a lot of people have found us just because of our partners, and it helps to build brand recognition. Oh, I use so-and-so software. Oh, look, they recommend Forecastly. Well, if it's Forecastly versus one of our competitors, it's just one little notch up that it gives us. It's like a recommendation or a referral from a customer.
Yeah, it's social proof.
And then there was another thing in the content piece. So we're doubling down a little bit on content. I want to do more videos. We're doing more guest blog posts. But I've learned a lot. One of the things I was really hesitant about with you guys is are you going to be able to write technical articles? Mm-hmm. Which, when I say technical, I mean, are you going to use the customer's wording? Mm-hmm. And you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. So I said, all right, let's double down. We're going to start to do more guest blog posts.
Yeah, I think we've done a bunch of guest articles. Yeah.
I have a big, long list of them lined up.
That's great. And those are so effective, too. I mean, I need to do more of them now, but I did those myself for years, like around around like 2012 to 2014, I did a lot of guest articles on a lot of different sites, and it's had such an impact. Just trap like actual readers of those and like clicking through, but of course the SEO benefits as well, getting those links coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so important. But yeah, I mean, like about voice, we hear that again, and it's one of the more difficult things to get right. But I think it's when we work together with clients and like get your input, especially early on, to give us notes on specific terminology and voice and things to avoid, and we keep a log of those notes so that we can try to stay accurate.
I think I was pretty cautious about it at the beginning. I was skeptic about it. So I wanted to make sure that I focused on or getting you good info right away about the target market.
Yeah.
Here's the voice that they use. And I could have done a better job, and we should probably get all of our partners updated on that stuff, especially as we come out with new personas. But it has helped. Yeah, it definitely, I think being very detailed at the beginning helped a lot to get us off to a smooth start.
Awesome. Yeah, well, that's great to hear. Well, so, you kind of keep on optimizing and everything here. So like as we look ahead the rest of the year, next year, what's kind of the big thing on the horizon for you?
From a technical standpoint, we want to get into machine learning. That's the big hot button, right? And there's some really cool stuff we can do with it. So, but I don't want to go into too much detail here just because it's not the point. Mm-hmm. But from a marketing perspective, yeah, it's the partners, but building out the systems. So one of the things that I learned from the beginning when I was working with a third party versus writing a blog post myself was, oh wait, I need to do Twitter and Facebook ads with this and send out emails every week. I wasn't doing any of that. Mm-hmm. So now when we have guest blog posts, we need to be doing the same thing. Someone needs to be in charge of posting if we have someone else posting on our site, someone needs to get the article posted. We need to get the Twitter and Facebook posts ready to go so that those will launch as well. These are all important parts that are kind of falling to the wayside right now. So I'm out there drumming up all these partner relationships, but then we're falling short, mm-hmm. which is, it's disappointing because it makes me look bad or makes the company look bad. But if we don't get them, if we guarantee that something's going to be posted and then it's going to be done right, it needs to be done. When I say posted, I mean put up on the blog.
Right.
Right. And then the same thing goes on the other side as far as guest blog posts on other sites.
Yeah.
If I guarantee that I'm going to have an article ready, I need to make sure that I'm doing stuff in advance and putting the right pieces in place to get it ready to go.
Yeah, I just wanted to, before we wrap up real quickly, I wanted to cover that because it's kind of a really good tactic. How are you going about the guest article writing? Like, are you just kind of doing cold outreach to other companies and blogs and things, like just to pitch ideas? Or
yeah, 100%. And I don't email them to say, hey, can we do a guest blog post on your site? Because that is not my intent. If they don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine.
Right.
It's more of just building it's 100% building a relationship.
Yeah,
it's cool. What are they doing? What's working for them? How did they get into the business? Yep. What did they do before this? So that it's fun to talk to other people that are out there. And I really like this.
Totally.
I really like that piece of it.
And that's a really good approach too, because I get a lot of, it's becoming a thing now where it's totally systematized. You could see these companies doing these like cold emails to pitch guest articles. I get at least 2 or 3 of them a week. And it's like a template email, and the thing that they're trying to pitch or their business is like completely unrelated from anything that I would ever talk about or even connect with. So obviously it's like delete, but yeah, like when you're in a related industry and you just start a conversation and try to actually get to know the person, and maybe that leads to a guest article, maybe it leads to something else. That's where the real value is.
You're right. I get the emails too, just straight up. Hey, can we do a guest? Or some people call them a link exchange. Like right. It's not 2005.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We're not doing a link exchange here. Like there's more to it. If I'm going to do my whole philosophy in business is I only work with people that I want to go out and have a beer with or a cup of coffee if they don't mm-hmm. drink, right? But it's somebody that I would be friends with, because at the end of the day, life is short. We should all be working together, and I want to work with people that kind of think similar about the relationship. And it's not just about that one blog post. It's how can we work together in the long run. Plus, it's pretty cool when you go to the conferences or if you visit a city that you're not usually around.
Yeah,
you've never been to before. Yeah, you know people that are in the area.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jeremy, this has been really, really helpful, really insightful. It's been exciting to see what you've been able to build here with Forecastly. So, of course, people can go check out Forecastly. That's forecast.ly. And where else can people connect with you?
Feel free to. I always give out my email address. It's Jeremy, Jeremy, at forecastly.com. So it's like forecast with the ly at the end.com.
Oh, so you also have the .com.
Yeah, I went back and forth. It's from a technical standpoint, we just switched to the .com, but you know how it is.
Might as well own both.
That's not my personal strength, and we have bigger fish to fry at this point.
Hey,
but.
As long as you grab both of them, and one doesn't go to some random place, so that's good.
You got it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on. Have a great day.